Imagine this. A ship goes down in 1918, and before the world has even had time to absorb the tragedy, the rescue vessel is sunk as well. In one day, 983 lives are lost to the ocean. For decades, everyone thought that was the end of the story. But by the time you're done watching this video, you'll learn the secret truth history attempted to conceal. Sit back and be prepared to experience one of history's darkest, unrevealed war tales. Tragedies abound in history that we believe we understand, until the truth emerges. During the last few years of World War I, the ocean became the theater of a disaster so horrific that survival seemed hopeless. 2 vessels, almost 1,000 lives, and a series of events that would go down as one of the war's most terrifying sea tragedies. By the conclusion of this video, you'll learn what truly transpired, a terrifying secret far greater than what history books have to say. If you're prepared to delve into the lesser-known side of history, be sure to like, subscribe, click the bell, and share, so you don't miss the next story. Let us proceed with the actual story and find out what exactly happened on that ill-fated day. In April 1941, while evacuating Allied forces from Greece, the Slamat, a Dutch troop ship, along with Royal Navy destroyers HMS Diamond and HMS Rheineck, were attacked by German dive bombers. But this was not an ordinary attack. It turned into a series of tragedies that would cost the lives of almost 1,000 people. The Germans controlled the skies absolutely, and the Royal Air Force was unable to do anything about it. If the convoy had traveled more quickly, or if the ports had been free, many more lives could have been saved. But the Slamat had already been damaged, and troop embarkation was slow. So when she finally departed in the early hours, she only took on half capacity and left hundreds remaining on the beach. Even HMS Diamond, which attempted to save survivors, was sunk in the hammering. By morning's end, some 983 men had been killed, and very few survived. The entire story transcends the number. It is one of bravery errors and the brutal realities of war at sea. What really happened those fateful hours, viewing this video, you will learn. The horror of Slamat came about only as the convoy proceeded down the Argolic Gulf. Slamat pushed on at full speed to overtake Calcutta and Khedive Ismail. But off Leonidion, the convoy was attacked by German aircraft. The fighters made the first attack, followed by dive bombers and bombers that continued to pound the troop ships relentlessly. Initially, the anti-air fire from Diamond and Calcutta held off the attackers, but a bomb later fell between Slamat's bridge and the forward funnel, and the bridge and control room caught fire. Another bomb landed, and the ship started listing to starboard. Had the crew managed to put out the fire immediately, more lives would have been saved, but with the water system incapacitated and lifeboats destroyed, abandoning ship was the only alternative. While the rest of the boats were launched, some of them capsized while taking the survivors aboard, and some were caught in machine gun fire from the aircraft. HMS Diamond and HMS Rheineck picked up as many as they could, but they too were at risk all the time. Thus, even while several hundred were rescued, many were stranded with almost certain death awaiting them. At the end, Slamat was burned stem and stern, and Diamond launched a torpedo to sink her entirely. Diamond took around 600 survivors with Captain Luidinga aboard. The chaos, bravery, and impossible choices of those hours uncovered the deadly truth of war at sea and the great price paid by the targets of its wrath. Now proceed to the next chapter of this emerging tragedy, where disaster and courage met in the open waters. The afternoon sky above the Argolic Gulf had a falsely serene appearance, but the tranquility would prove to be short-lived. Around 1:15 p.m., German dive bombers came out of the sun, transforming the horizon into a platform for devastation. Diamond and Rheineck, the valiant destroyers attempting to rescue survivors of Slamat, were at the mercy of the Luftwaffe as a surprise. Bombs ripped through the sky, with chilling accuracy, and the scream of engines and explosions dominated the atmosphere. Diamond was hit first. A bomb ravaged her engine room and immediately shut down her engines and brought her funnel and mast crashing down. Another went up in a blaze along her port side, ripping a huge gash in her hull. If her engine room petty officer hadn't moved so quickly to vent the pressure out of the boilers, the ship could have broken apart at once. But he did, and the men fought to save lives while fire, smoke, and the crash of bombs threatened to engulf them. Diamond went down in a mere 8 minutes, and only 3 of the Carly floats remained afloat for the survivors to hold on to. The ocean turned into a war zone, a collision of fire, wreckage, and men battling the tides. Rheineck met a similar fate as well. She was struck by 3 bombs in swift succession. The first blew open her port side, and the second and third hit her engine room and bridge, knocking her out of commission. Her commissioned engineer, Maurice Waldron, showed remarkable bravery, closing down the boilers while taking a wounded Australian officer to one of the Carly floats. The ship rolled over to port, but still got away with launching a whaler and 3 additional floats before being overwhelmed by the water in 15 minutes. Most of the crew, including both destroyers' commanding officers, were lost, their names only ever recorded in the books of war tragedy. Those remaining in the water fought to survive, pounded by the swell, sunburned, bruised, and fatigued. Survival still managed to find its way, even amidst the chaos. Waldron, the de facto commander, then took control of the whaler and started towing 2 Carly floats through the churning and capricious sea. But as the day wore on, the wind increased and waves pounded at the floats, and he had to release them adrift while still transporting a severely injured sailor who depended solely on his stamina. Had Waldron not seized control, no one in the whaler would probably have endured the relentless passage. Hope was all the crew held onto, but no mercy was shown by the sea or the foe. By nightfall, HMS Phoebe and a group of 7 destroyers arrived at Suda Bay, prepared to disembark, evacuated troops, but Diamond was not among them. The radio was repeatedly used to attempt to contact her, but there was no response. Rheineck had been ordered to keep quiet, keeping the command in the dark and in the dark. So HMS Griffin was sent to scour the Argolic Gulf where Slamet had been lost. On the wreckage and lifeboats, Griffin picked up 14 survivors who clung to Carly floats on the brink of death, their eyes open in exhaustion and horror. Other survivors were later found and taken to Crete, but the ordeal was not yet ended. The whaler that took Waldron and his men away sailed 30 nautical miles towards Milos. All the men on board were tired, their bodies cramped from cold, and their morale breaking under the strain of fear and bereavement. The whaler spotted Ananis Rock, and they found a caïque with Greek refugees and British soldiers who had been in hiding from German patrols. They were making for Crete, traveling by night only to escape recognition. Survivors were offloaded as best was done, but the whaler was still half full. Waldron had still 5 men in the tender, their energy ebbing, their hope flickering scarcely. Lastly, a small landing craft, a 6, arrived to pick up all of them. The tired men, survivors of Slamet, Diamond, and Rheineck, were finally on firm track to safety. By April 30th, they arrived at Suda Bay and were subsequently carried to Port Said. The magnitude of loss was unimaginable, but the guts, creativity, and resolve of a few men made it certain that some would remain to recount the story. Those events of the day unveiled the limit of human tolerance and the horrific price of war. Ships were lost, scores died in the ocean, and even in the midst of turmoil, there was heroism. From Diamond to Rheineck, from Carly floats to the whaler and last landing craft, every move brought with it life and death. The sea took its toll on many, But those who were left behind lived because some did not yield. Some showed unbreakable wills, and some were presented with impossible decisions under unimaginable circumstances. It was more than a maritime disaster. It was a tribute to courage, to the vulnerability of life during war, and to the raw fact that, in war, survival hinges on more than just strength but on courage, intelligence, and the determination to survive when all else is lost. As we come to the final chapter of this appalling saga, the bravery and sacrifice of Slamat, Diamond, and Rhynic serve as a potent reminder of human resilience in the face of unimaginable adversity. Theirs is not the legacy in lives lost, but in heroism that shone through tragedy and chaos. Which brave action impressed you the most? Do let us know in the comments. And if you liked this video and wish to see more such stories exposing the untold facts of history, do not forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and share the video with others.